Friday night, late June. Mic check. Garrett Black, the lead guitarist for Fiona Vale's band, yelled, "Testing, 1, 2. The hot air of the late Vegas sun beat down on us. It had been a cool day, only 102. The water in the pool in front of the stage looked inviting. Garrett had somehow become more than just the guitarist. When Fiona wanted something done, she asked her personal assistant. The assistant asked Garrett, which meant Garrett was now the unofficial liaison, stage coordinator, and whatever else she decided he was that day. Poor guy. The wedge monitor closest to me screamed. The sound tore through my eardrums. I jumped back from the edge of the beach stage, clapping both hands over my ears. The canister I'd been holding slipped from my grip and hit the floor with a sharp clank. Then, silence. My ears rang, a high, tinny whine that nearly drowned out everything else. "Sorry," someone shouted over the walkie. "What are you doing out there, Zara?" Garrett called toward the FOH booth, a low tent set back on the stand, centered behind the crowd line. "Not my fault," Zara's voice crackled back. "Feedback from 3. Zara, Mandalay Bay's production coordinator. Think entertainment manager. She kept the venue, the crew, and the outside contractors, like me, from stepping on each other, making sure we all played nicely. I crouched to receive the heavy cylinder, flexing my fingers as the ringing in my ears slowly faded. Fire and sound didn't mix. One surprise was an annoyance. The other got people hurt. "That's the monitor near me," I shouted. "How about a little warning before you test speakers again? I think I just dented the stage." Garrett looked over at me. About 6 foot. Lean, black Nirvana tee with the sleeves ripped off. A black ponytail hung down his back, dark stubble along his jaw. Leather ties wrapped his wrist. The kind of guy you don't take home to mama, but you date anyway. The only thing that wasn't black was the silver cross at his throat. Some kids shrieked in the nearby pool. The air smelled of chlorine and copper tone. "You might have to rethink the stage layout." I shielded my eyes and faced him. Somebody placed monitor 3 right in the spot marked for one of the fire jets, one of which I'd been holding, until I wasn't. "You the pyro guy?" Garrett set the mic down and walked over. "Joshua Cross, head of Vegas Pyros, the company contracted to set up the onstage glam." Barely a team, really. Just 3 of us. And the fireworks in question? The pyrotechnics display for Fiona's first Vegas concert. It's outdoors, set on the Mandalay Bay beach stage tonight and tomorrow night. We had 3 hours to get the stage set for her exact specifications. Fiona is the new queen of the club scene, especially her hits "Love Me Loud" and "You Don't Deserve My Love." Rumor is she's a diva, wants a specific kind of avocado on her morning toast. Won't bother me if I never meet her. I walked over to check monitor 3. It smelled of burnt wire and scorched fabric. "Wedge is blown," I said, "and we're going to have to move it if you want symmetrical flame jets." "We usually have cold sparks," Garrett said. I reached behind me to scratch my back. Not this time. Fiona must be changing things since it's an outdoor venue. She requested flame on demand, so she gets propane flame jets. We need 3-foot clearance around each. Minimum. Fire code doesn't negotiate. He nodded and stepped back into the shade. The stage didn't have a roof, just a scaffolding framework, stretching 20 feet overhead, holding lights, rigging, and at the rear of the stage, 2 giant screens. 2 men crawled through the scaffolding far above, adjusting spotlights and swapping color filters. On the side of the stage, a 3rd man knelt, slowly removing one of the mammoth speaker covers. A portable table sat near the middle of the stage, and it held a placement map of what they expected the stage to look like. I walked over, carrying the large pyrotechnic tube, and leaned over the table. Garrett followed a few feet behind me. I glanced back. His eyes had suddenly focused on mine. "What are you looking at?" I asked. He offered a quick "nothing" and looked away. I rolled my eyes, but said nothing. I knew his type. Great if you wanted an hour or two of fun. Lousy if you wanted a second date. Some things are better left alone. I ignored my own gut. I talked to him anyway. Smoothing the map out, I pointed at monitor 3. "Either we move it or the flame jet." "Why?" Fiona said, climbing onto the stage. She wore a pale halter top, a very large wide-brimmed hat shielding her blonde hair, and a pair of oversized sunglasses. "Besides fire code," I replied, remaining calm, "the flame jet will melt the monitor." "No, I want the little speaker thing at that exact spot," she said. "It makes me sing better." "Then we move the jet." "No, it will ruin the synergy and I'll look stupid." "Then we shift the monitor to the left. That will work better because it makes it closer to the outlets." "No, you'll do as I say," she pouted, arms at her side, face growing pale. "Then we can trim them to 2 or 4 jets. Adjust the spacing to make it look good." "I want 6. "That won't work," I replied. "Don't you know who I am?" "Let the attitude go, Fiona," Garrett muttered quietly, like he had said this before. "You'll make more friends." Fiona gave him a snarky smirk, but focused on me. "Physics don't care," I said. "Fire's still fire." "Make it work," she said, "but both will be there." I shrugged. "Your call, but the fire marshal will cancel. They must inspect all pyrotechnics before the show so we don't repeat the North Macedonia incident." "That was inside. This is outside." She waved her arms like she was landing airplanes. "And look," she pointed to stage front, "there's a pool right there." "Doesn't matter," I replied. "I'm calling the hotel manager. We'll see about this." Fiona stomped off, face carefully composed for the fans snapping pictures. "You work for her?" I asked the guy in the black t-shirt. "Longest 20 months of my life." "Why don't you quit?" I asked. "Money's good," he replied. I switched topics. "Does she always play this well with other kids?" Garrett leaned on the table next to me, pretending to look at the map. "It's the stress. Fiona sees every event in black or white. A perfect show or a flop. No middle ground." He shrugged, picking up a nearby pen, his grip tightening. "Story of my existence." "Does she ever relax?" I asked. "Nope," he said. "Always cutting deals, practicing, whatever. She cut a deal with Amazon about this weekend." "You're the guitarist?" I asked. "My grandpa taught me to play," Garrett said. "They raised me. Mom was too busy getting high. Dad was simply gone." "What about Fiona?" I asked. "She's the boss. What she says is law." He looked away. His eyes drooped. "Tired?" I asked. "Tired of Fiona's attitude. To her, we're all disposable." The walkie squawked. Garrett picked it up. "What's up, Zara?" "We don't have another wedge monitor out here, but they have one we can borrow in the theater over by the casino. We need to send someone to pick it up." "I'm on it," Garrett replied, setting the walkie down. "It's easier with 2 people. Give me a hand?" Chapter 2. We walked into the hotel, through the blast of conditioned air that cut the heat like a blade, past the casino floor, bells chiming, lights flashing, the low hum of people chasing luck, and into the theater. A steward met us inside and pointed us toward a spare wedge monitor. Garrett and I carried it out together, the weight steady between us. "How'd you become a guitarist?" I asked. "Started out as a family thing." He adjusted his grip without looking at me. "How'd you get into special effects?" "Army. Demolitions." I shrugged. This way I get to play with fire, legally. We stepped back into the heat. The sun hadn't softened any. Zara waited near the edge of the stage, headset on, but the microphone was vertical. Fiona stood beside her, arms crossed, sunglasses dangling from one hand. Next to her was a woman I didn't recognize, a large iPad resting in her arms. Fiona's celebrity personal assistant. Wish I had one. Fiona smirked the moment she saw Garrett. Zara didn't waste time. Josh, Miss Vale has lodged a complaint against you. Make me understand the issue with placement. Straight to the point. Good. I set the monitor down and explained. Clearances, flame jets, spacing, fire code. No emotion, just facts. That's how the Army trained it out of you. Feelings got people hurt. Facts kept them alive. Zara listened, eyes moving between the map and the stage. The hotel had bigger concerns, like ticket revenue, reputation, keeping the headliner happy. But even she knew a burned-down stage meant no show at all. Solution seems simple, she said finally. Limit it to 2 flame jets, one on each side of the stage. You keep the symmetry and the flames. No! Fiona snapped, stepping forward. I want 6. There's a pool right there. She gestured toward the water like it proved her point. It doesn't matter, I said evenly. The clearance still applies. Zara walked to the edge of the stage, glanced out at the pool, then back at the scorched monitor. She crouched, pried the cover off, and sniffed. The acrid smell of burnt wire. Brings back memories. Iraq. Glad I'm home. Mandalay Bay does not need negative publicity, Zara said quietly, or a disaster. She stood. You want symmetry? You get symmetry. Josh, arrange LED floor spots. Solves the fire issue. Check with the theater if there aren't enough out here. Yes, ma'am. No! Fiona snapped, louder this time. It's my show. Zara was 3 times Fiona's age, a grandmother, and had been working here for 20 years. She knew the code as well as I did. It's my job to make sure the hotel is still here long after tonight's crowd forgets you. Her phone buzzed. She left us, mumbling something about new software, old speakers, and the outside bar running out of tequila before heading back to the control tent. Fiona didn't hesitate. She turned straight to her assistant. It's not fair. I know what I want. Make it happen. That's what you're here for. The assistant's arms folded tighter. Her gaze landed on me first, then shifted to Garrett. Cold. Measuring. This is your fault! Fiona yelled in our general direction. Let me take this, the assistant said. Perhaps you do not understand how important this is. As an icon and a creative, Fiona is under a lot of stress. That doesn't give her the right to be a witch, Garrett said. The assistant nodded as if in sympathy. Tonight's concert is merely preparation for tomorrow's. That's the big event. It will be a live pay-per-view streamed to multiple platforms, then edited into a video Amazon has already agreed to sponsor. It's all about presentation, style. Do you understand what's at stake for Fiona Vale? Who was she talking to? Could have been either of us. I kept my face neutral, blank. The same expression I'd used in front of officers who thought volume replaced authority. I'll set up the lights, ma'am, I said. Anything else? Her eyes searched mine, like she was looking for something to push against. Finding nothing, she turned to Garrett. It was your job, she said, to keep Fiona happy. Garrett folded his arms. A muscle jumped in his jaw. Did you forget? He said, his tone flat. I'm only the guitarist. It was your job to prepare the stage according to Fiona's wishes, the assistant replied, her tone calm, diplomatic. Fiona spun toward him, tears streaking her makeup, anger sharpening every word. He's fired! Get someone better! Garrett has been with you the entire tour and is on the album. The assistant sounded weary, like this was a long day in a string of long days. Somebody in the pool, half submerged on a giant inflatable duck, had a phone pointed straight at the stage, recording their happy little star. I almost snickered. Perfect. The assistant's expression softened instantly. "Fiona doesn't mean to sound ungrateful," she said gently. "She isn't happy about the stage arrangement. She didn't want lights. She wants fire, explosions, something people will remember." "I want him gone!" Fiona yelled. Garrett didn't move, didn't argue, didn't look surprised. Hate to play poker against him. "It's my brand. I make decisions." "Garrett," the assistant continued, "let Fiona have her moment tonight. Take the night off. Clear your head. We'll see you tomorrow." There it was. Garrett exhaled through his nose. Slow, controlled, like he'd done this before. Probably had. Too many times. I looked from him to the stage, to the taped marks, the burn zones, the exact places things could go wrong. Then back to him. "Hey," I said. Garrett glanced at me. "Since you're not playing tonight," I said, sticking my thumbs into my pockets, "hang with me." One brow lifted. "Why?" I held his gaze. "Because, my friend, this is Vegas. I know a place. Jazz, low lights, like stepping back in time." For a second, nothing. Then just barely, Garrett smiled. I liked when he smiled. Chapter 3. Garrett was already waiting in all black. Long sleeves, Levi's, and that silver cross catching the evening light. He looked like he belonged exactly where we were going. He'll fit in perfectly. We stopped at my apartment so I could change, and we drove to the artsy side of Vegas. I parked just as the sun was hitting the pavement, the world momentarily turning gold. This part of Vegas doesn't sparkle with neon. It glowed with old brick and secrets. A gray-haired man walked slowly ahead, pausing to let a small Yorkshire terrier with a blonde tuft of hair on his head sniff at a street lamp. We nodded. Our destination was a few doors down, a club set back from the street with a black awning over the entrance. The door was almost invisible against the wall, if not for that white orchid embossed right into the wood. A man with too many muscles and a pinstripe suit guarded the door. I bet he could bench press my car. A faint saxophone blended into the coming night. The air carried a chill beat. The bouncer eyed us, nodded, and opened the door. "What is this place?" Garrett asked. The air smelled of apricots and perfume and bourbon. "A speakeasy," I replied, taking his arm. "The Black Orchid Club, one of Vegas's many secrets tourists don't know about." Velvet-draped walls, tables dressed in burgundy cloths, and a live band finished the ambiance. The Milwaukee Nights, a jazz band with 5 members featuring a man playing a saxophone, brought the darkness alive. They kept the air warm and electric. We found a table in the middle, and a waitress wandered over. "Tonight's special is the Midnight Apricot, in honor of Zion." She nodded at the saxophone player. "He just returned from his honeymoon." "What's in it?" Garrett asked. She smiled and set down a couple of menus. Apricot schnapps, a little bourbon for depth, a dash of lemon juice, some honey syrup, and just a touch of bitters. It's warm, slightly sweet, and a little smoky, perfect for late-night jazz or intimate conversations. We shared a smoky jalapeno and chorizo pizza with queso asadero, tall glasses of midnight apricot, and listened to the band. Most people were in their late 20s or older. This place appealed to an older crowd than the teens at Fiona's concert. We talked about jobs, about traveling, about our jobs again. Conversation with Garrett came smooth and easy, and an hour passed. The pizza was long gone, and we were on our second drinks. The band took a break, letting their instruments rest. The guitar over there? That's a PRS Custom 24 Pro Series. Range is around $5,000. Is that what you played? Thought about it, but I went with a McCarty 594. I sipped my drink. Let's take a closer look. He sipped his drink, left it on the table, and walked over to the instruments with me. The guitarist came over, and we spoke about the guitar, about the band, about music. Then the guitarist asked the question that changed everything. Do you want to try it? The second Garrett picked up the instrument, something changed in his eyes, like the noise finally shut off. His hand slid up and down the strings, and almost without thinking, he began playing the opening chords for Fiona's You Don't Deserve My Love. Not bad, the guitarist replied. Can you play something with heart? Chapter 4. Garrett didn't answer right away. His fingers rested on the strings like they were listening, waiting for permission. The room had shifted. The low hum of conversation around us faded. Glasses stopped clinking. Even the bartender leaned in slightly, like he knew something was about to happen. The guitarist folded his arms. Well? Garrett exhaled slowly. Then he played, not loud, not flashy, just a single note. It rang out warm and clean, hanging in the air longer than it should have. Then another and another. No lyrics, no audience tricks, no stage lighting, no Fiona. Just him. The melody built slowly, soft, almost hesitant at first, like someone testing unfamiliar ground. But within seconds it deepened, shifted, became something heavier, something real, something that didn't belong on a Vegas stage at all. I felt it before I understood. Lonely. That was the first word that hit me. The kind of lonely you can't shout over with crowds or drown in noise. The kind that follows you even when everybody's looking at you. Garrett's eyes were closed now. His shoulders had loosened. The tension I'd seen earlier on stage with Fiona Vale was gone. His hands moved like they knew exactly where to go. This wasn't practice. This wasn't performance. This was truth. The melody twisted unexpectedly, minor notes slipping in like shadows, pulling the sound into something darker. Regret laced through it, then frustration, then something sharper, like anger held just below the surface for too long. A story without words. And somehow I understood, not the details, but the feeling. I'd seen that same look in soldiers after missions, the ones that made it back physically fine, but left something behind in Iraq. You learn to recognize it. One of the band slipped in behind Garrett. Let a brother help you out. He picked up a bass and laid down a slow rhythm, deepening the melody and adding a slice of New Orleans twang. Then the drummer took his seat and slowly dove in, and then the keyboardist, and finally Zion on saxophone. A beautiful harmony that brought tears. The next 30 minutes they jammed within the minor keys. The music evolved from a soulful wake to a glorious celebration of life. Garrett hit a final progression, low, resonant, and let it fade. Silence followed. Not polite silence. Heavy silence, the kind that lands and stays. The guitarist let out a low whistle. Yeah, he said quietly. That's what I meant. Garrett opened his eyes. For a second, he looked disoriented, like he'd forgotten where he was. Then reality came back. The walls, the people, me. People clapped, not the polite clapping like you do for other people's kids, but real, including me. He'd stirred something inside me, something I hadn't let myself feel since coming home. Garrett set the guitar down gently, like it was something fragile. "Sorry," he muttered. "Don't apologize," I said, before I could stop myself. He glanced at me. The guitarist smiled, a wide, toothy grin of pure delight. "Brother, that's the first honest thing I've seen all day." Something flickered in Garrett's expression. Surprise, maybe, or recognition? The guitarist gave a short nod. "You ever record?" Garrett shook his head. "Not my thing." "Should be," the man replied. "That wasn't just skill. That was something else." Garrett didn't answer. Instead, he stepped back toward our table, grabbing his drink and downing the rest in one go. I followed, slower this time. "You hide that on stage?" I asked once I sat down. He gave a dry huff of a laugh. "Doesn't exactly fit Fiona's brand." "No," I said. "Thank God." The waitress set a second pizza down in front of us. "Boss says you earned it." The band started setting up again behind us, quieter now, more careful. Garrett leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. "Doesn't matter anyway." "It does," I said. He looked at me again. I didn't look away. "You don't get to say something like that and pretend it's nothing," I said. Another pause. Then he sighed, running a hand through his long hair. "You always this intense?" "So I've been accused," I replied. His mouth twitched. Not quite a smile. I liked it when he smiled. Chapter 5. I woke early Saturday morning. Even the sun still needed coffee. For once, I was warm, content. This didn't happen often. My place was exactly how I liked it. Strict, everything tidy and in its place. Keys on the hook, dishes lined up and ready for patrol. My lone peace lily standing guard. A no-nonsense kind of place. Same with my life. Army training ran deep. I thought back 5 years to my Army days. Sergeant Hill had a saying, "Polished boots equal a polished life." Garrett stirred beside me, curling into my side. His face was relaxed. Like the last 12 hours had erased years of whatever hell he'd come from. Working with Fiona probably landed somewhere around Dante's fifth circle. His hair caught the early light. Long, black, soft as silk. I kissed his forehead, then reached for his hand, tracing the long, delicate fingers. He pretended to be asleep, but the slight curve of his lips gave him away. I kissed him again. "I'll make coffee. How do you take yours?" I whispered. "Bitter and black." "Just like your soul?" I teased. In one smooth motion, he rolled us over, pinning me beneath him. "Coffee can wait." His weight pressed into me, not heavy, just there, real. His hair spilled across my shoulders, soft, carrying the faint scent of strawberry. We paused there, just looking at each other. Something unspoken passed between us. My breath caught. Something shifted in my chest. The hunger was there, just a spark, but growing into something hotter. That scared me. I hadn't let myself feel like this since Iraq. Feeling made things complicated, but seeing myself reflected in his eyes opened something. And the first thing that came through wasn't pain. It was joy. A laugh slipped out, quiet and unguarded, and for once I stopped planning. I just let go. Chapter 6. I made breakfast late that morning. Eggs folded with ground beef and cheese, hash browns heavy with onions and jalapenos, and coffee, of course. Army days taught me coffee didn't need help. Garrett emerged from the shower, dressed in yesterday's clothes. His next words surprised me. "I want your number," he said. "I think something special happened, and I don't want it to end." The window was still open. "I thought you were a love 'em and leave 'em kind of guy." Garrett winced. Just a flicker, but I caught it. I'd hit something without aiming. He recovered fast. Some things you don't leave. Last night had mattered to him too. I plated the hash browns. You'll be gone tomorrow. He poured himself coffee, blowing lightly across the surface. Yeah, about that. I'm getting tired. I split the eggs between the plates. What do you mean? We sat in that quiet honesty that comes after you let your guard down. But was hookup really the right word for what we shared? It felt like more. Something had opened inside the darker parts of me, letting in air where there hadn't been any for a long time. I didn't try to shut it down. I let part of me breathe for the first time since Iraq. Garrett stared into his coffee. I'm tired of being second best, he said, turning the cup in his hands but not drinking. Tired of holding everything up for everyone else. Tired of... His voice trailed off. I pulled out the chair beside him. Worn, cracked, the vinyl fading. A little like me. I took his hand, gripping it firmly, letting him feel it. Finish the sentence, I said. He didn't hesitate this time. Tired of the disrespect. Neither of us moved. Chapter 7. We were washing up the breakfast dishes, talking guitars and amps, when Garrett's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. Paused. Friend back in Denver, he said. Sent me a video. I stepped closer, leaning over his shoulder. His hair still smelled faintly sweet. The message read, Is this you? A link underneath. Twitch, YouTube, something like that. Garrett tapped it. The screen filled with a 30-second clip. Him last night, standing under low lights, guitar in his hands. Playing, not for a crowd, not for Fiona, just playing. The caption read, Who is this guy, and why isn't he famous? My chest tightened. There's a longer version, Garrett said quietly. He tapped another link. The full performance loaded, thousands of views already, and climbing. I brushed his hair aside and kissed the back of his neck. I'm proud of you. What you did at the Black Orchid, that was amazing. His hand found mine. A flicker of a smile broke through. Soft and real. It was fun, he said, with a quiet chuckle. Do you want to do it again? I asked. Play hooky tonight? He turned toward me, brushing a light kiss across my nose. I love your smile, I whispered. For a moment, his smile was the brightest thing in the room. Then it dimmed. What? I asked. This is going to be a problem, he said quietly. You'll have to explain, I said. What's wrong with showing the world how talented you are? The light faded completely from Garrett's eyes. He looked back at the screen. The view count ticked higher. Was this going viral? Fiona won't be pleased, he said. Chapter 8. Though I didn't have to work today, I met Garrett for lunch at Mandalay Bay. Since there were no pyrotechnics, my team didn't need to be there either. It was nice having a weekend. We held hands as we stepped into the House of Blues restaurant and bar. The place was dim and warm, even at noon. A small trio played in the corner, blues, low and steady. Every table was full, including one with men in casual gear, a DSLR resting in the chair beside them. Garrett smiled. I liked it when he smiled. Our waiter, an older man with graying hair and a broad, knowing grin, paused as he took our order. I've seen you before. Garrett shrugged. I play guitar for Fiona Vale. The man waved that off. Don't care for her stuff. That's not music. He then pointed. You were the guy at the club. I was there. I leaned in slightly. You saw him play? Garrett Black, right? You were playing with Zion and the fellas. Garrett actually blushed. It was kind of adorable. Yeah, he said. Guy had a pretty nice guitar. With hands like yours. The waiter shot back. He turned toward the band without waiting for permission. Ladies and gentlemen, he called, loud enough to carry, we've got a famous musician in the house. Garrett Black. Man can make a guitar sing. Maybe with enough applause, he'll play something for us. Give it up. The lunch crowd looked at us, then broke into cheers. Garrett was cute when he smiled like that, all embarrassed and delicious, but that didn't stop him. He leaned over, kissed me for luck, and walked to the tiny corner where the band played. One of the players, Leroy, grinned and handed over his acoustic guitar. Garrett hesitated, just for a second. Then he looked at me. Knock him dead, love, I said. He stood and played the same piece from the night before, but stripped down, raw without the electric edge. It didn't matter. He still made it sing. Conversations died off mid-sentence. Glasses paused halfway to lips. A few people lifted their phones. Then more. Garrett noticed it too, but didn't stop. Even Leroy was filming. Someone whispered, "Isn't that Fiona's guitarist? He's more talented than she is." The final note faded into the low hum of the room. Then the applause hit, loud, real, immediate. Garrett handed the guitar back, a little dazed, like he'd forgotten everyone else existed. Best part? They gave us free drinks. Chapter 9. After lunch, we walked through the casino, heading toward the beach stage. One of the beach attendants flagged us down. Name tag read, Nate Calder. "Zara wants to see you, in her office. Said it's important." "Why?" I asked. "Didn't say." Nate hesitated. He rubbed the back of his neck before looking at us. "But, heads up, she's mad." Garrett gave me a quick kiss. "I'll be at the stage, double-checking for tonight." "Give me a few," I said. "Actually," Nate added, "she wants both of you." Garrett took my hand. Zara's office was on the 3rd floor, down a back corridor, half hidden behind a decorative plant. The door was open. She stood inside, brow furrowed, staring at something on her screen, tension carved into her face. She didn't wait. "We got hit with a $500 fine," she said. "Fire marshal refused to sign off on the changes." My spine straightened automatically. "What changes?" Her eyes snapped to me. "Did you authorize them?" "Ma'am, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't been on the property since I clocked out last night," I said. Her expression shifted, just slightly. The anger didn't leave, but something underneath it adjusted. "I can vouch," Garrett said. "We were at the Black Orchid." Her gaze flicked to him, softened, just a touch. "Saw the video," she said. "Nice work." Then back to both of us. "Neither of you knows anything about last night?" "No, ma'am," we said at the same time. She turned her monitor toward us. "Found this when I got in this morning, and it was flagged as urgent." A few clicks, then she hit play. Fiona filled the screen, mid-performance from the night before. Hair bleached so blonde it glowed, airbrushed skin, a black dress smoldering under the lights, bright nails, a rehearsed smile. Perfectly controlled. The track was polished, overproduced, auto-tune smoothing out every edge. I didn't see the problem. Then she hit the high note. The flame jets fired, all 6 of them. "They weren't supposed to fire in sequence," Zara said. "They weren't supposed to fire at all." I stepped closer to the screen. "That's impossible." "Nothing in that system fired without my authorization. It was the Army way. Clean, controlled, no surprises." This didn't just threaten my credibility, it put my company at risk. My voice stayed flat, controlled. The anger stayed buried. I locked the system down before I set the floor spots. The equipment was sealed in storage. None of my team would have gotten it out without informing me. "Garrett, you're her stage manager?" Garrett shook his head, almost rolling his eyes. "Fiona fired me yesterday. I'm going to find out today if it's permanent." Zara said something that startled me. "I've seen that video too." What video? I asked. Google Fiona and fired, Zara replied. I frowned. That wasn't a sentence I wanted to hear in this building. I want to see the stage, Garrett said. Check on my guitar. I was kicked out so fast I didn't even have time to lock it up. Just a minute. I rewound the video a few seconds, freezing it on monitor number 3. The flame jet erupted, too close to the speaker. That wasn't just wrong. That was dangerous. Did it catch fire? Garrett pointed to the stage monitor. A small flame flickered on the edge. Zara spun the screen and zoomed in. She swore, "Josh, get me a report, with pictures. I'm calling management." As we walked to the beach stage, I confirmed with my team. None of them were at the show last night. There wasn't supposed to be any pyro running. We walked, holding hands. It felt like I'd known Garrett longer than a day. We only had a day before he moved on. Garrett must have been thinking the same thing because he slowed just before we left the building. Then he pulled up Google and typed. Garrett stood a little taller and his mouth dropped open. Fiona is going to be furious. It was a 5-second meme on repeat. Fiona yelled, "You're fired," over and over again. A second meme had her yelling, "You're fired," at random people, splicing in clips including a maid, a pool cleaner, several U.S. presidents, and a package delivery guy. An entertainment news blog had the caption, "Fiona fires lead guitarist." And the next was a 2-minute clip of the entire conversation, with Fiona stomping off at the end. Garrett's clip from the Black Orchid had 1/10 of the views of Fiona's clips, and most of Vegas had already seen it. Half the nation, maybe the world, had seen hers. I looked at my love, unsure how to answer. I chose something that sounded diplomatic. I almost feel sorry for her. Garrett paused to put his phone away. Would I be a bad person if I said I didn't? Chapter 10. Nate had waited for us outside Zara's office, his face pale. Got a second, Mr. Cross? I don't think I've been called by my last name since the army. I paused. Something on your mind? I almost added private, but took a breath instead. Nate's shoulders stiffened, and he glanced at Garrett before returning to me. Fiona said you were okay with it, and I let her in. In where? I asked. Storage, he swallowed, where your gear was. Garrett stepped closer to me, his jaw tightening. What did she take? She had the stage crew take a bunch of stuff. I don't know the names, but it was your gear. Long cylinders? I asked. Nate nodded. My stomach dropped. Flame jets? Garrett asked. Yep, I said. Nate looked at me, eyes wide as if begging me to believe him. I was there when it happened last night, Nate said. Got the fire extinguisher before things got bad. I should have known better, but it was her show and... Fiona sweet-talked you, like almost everyone. You obeyed. Garrett's voice was low, controlled, not angry, just tired. Once again, no one stopped her. Sorry, Nate repeated. Garrett looked at me. Everything's about her image. Everyone else is just background, I finished for him. Show me the damage. Chapter 11. The Mandalay Beach stage was not designed as a permanent installation. It could be dismantled and moved if needed, adjusted for height. Even the size of the stage could be altered if needed. It did rest on a concrete slab. The base was a framework similar to the connected rods of the scaffolding, with a wooden floor resting atop the supports. It was sturdy, built to handle anything thrown at it. It did not survive Fiona. 2 scorch marks, 1 useless floor monitor, a pile of extinguisher powder. I knelt by monitor 3, now a blackened husk. It smelled of charred wood and fried wire. It sat directly next to the metal tube for the flame jet. The fire had partially melted the metal tubing connecting the jet to the propane. The flooring was scorched enough to matter. Nate had prevented a disaster. I sat back, felt cold. Monitor number 1 almost caught fire. Garrett yelled from the same position on the other side of the stage. It's burnt, but intact. How close is it to the jet tube? About as close as I was to my steak at lunch. Hose looks weird, kind of crispy. His tone was dark, grim. I checked the remaining 4 flame jets. All were set up wrong. All were damaged by improper propane connections. All 6 flame jets, ours. Vegas Pyro's property. My company. Tens of thousands of dollars, not including the monitors or the stage. This was my reputation on the line. I would be the one to deal with the consequences, and Fiona would get to flitter off to her next disaster. The old army days came back. There are some lines you don't cross. Fiona had just danced across all of them. Nate, I said, cordon off the stage. We need to preserve it as is for insurance adjusters. Garrett shook his head. Do you think the hotel will press negligence charges? A deep disgust settled in my gut. I took pictures, 100, easy, and sent each one to Zara. The cameramen I'd seen at House of Blues were setting up tripods and adjusting camera angles for the show tonight. Garrett, I asked, did you find your guitar? My love did a quick search. It's in the back. Secure it. Then I called Zara. I recommend closing the stage until a structural engineer can determine its viability. A woman walked onto the stage, carrying a large iPad in the crook of her arm. Fiona's celebrity personal assistant. I raised my voice to make sure she heard. Also, I'm filing a police report. Insurance will need it. Chapter 13. I should have set a timer. It was a toss-up who arrived first. Zara won, then 2 detectives from the LVMPD. Finally, Fiona Vale. The difference was measured in seconds. Zara had her "don't mess with my hotel" face on. Detective Marlowe looked tired, maybe bored. The other detective didn't say anything, got right to work taking pictures and video. Fiona, her hair still in curlers and wearing no makeup, shrieked as she stormed onto the stage. She wore a red kimono, falling off one shoulder, snapping around her like it couldn't keep up. I smirked. Sergeant Hill would have ripped her apart for not polishing her boots. Nate had found Do Not Enter tape among Halloween storage and was taping off the stage. Garrett had his guitar on his back, arms folded. He was telling Marlowe about being fired and displaying the video from last night. Marlowe wanted a copy. Garrett obliged. That's when Fiona yelled, "I have a concert tonight!" Marlowe asked me a few questions. I showed him the damage, the improperly set up flame jets, and the burnt stage. The other detective took video of the things I pointed out. And Fiona screamed, "All of you, get out of here. I have a concert. We have to get set up. It's worth millions. My record label set this up. We have contracts." Zara ignored her and walked toward Nate. "A building inspector from the city is on the way. He wants the stage cleared. Once the cops have pictures, get who you need and clean this place up. He'll be here in 15. "On it, ma'am." Fiona straightened her kimono, recovering her dignity as she pulled the curlers from her hair. In a composed tone, she said, "My concert is in 3 hours. The stage needs to be ready. I have a fortune riding on this. My future is hanging on tonight." "You should have thought about that last night," I said. "You stole my equipment, broke fire regulations, could have hurt people. For what? So you can flaunt that you're too good to obey the law?" "I am Fiona Vale," I replied in my no-nonsense voice. "And I'm Joshua Cross, former EOD, head of Vegas Pyros. Who you are doesn't matter. What you do does. I see a child playing with other people's toys and making a mess. Grow up." Marlowe looked over, staring at me as if seeing me for the first time. Zara smirked. Nate stepped back, eyes wide. Garrett nodded. "You know, she couldn't cut it at the Black Orchid." Fiona's mouth dropped. "Don't you know it?" Zara said. "Detectives, take your time. Stage is closed for repairs. Oh, and Josh? What's up?" "I'll need an itemized list," Zara said, deadpan. "All damaged equipment, including replacement costs. On my desk Monday. I'll add it to Miss Vale's bill. She broke it, she buys it. Epilogue. We went back to the Black Orchid Club that night, sitting in a shadowy booth listening to the Milwaukee Knights riff the blues, saxophone wailing a midnight melancholy. "What are you going to do now?" I asked. "I seem to be out of a job," he replied, moving closer. "Know any openings?" "Maybe," I said. "But I do know a place you could stay." He smiled, and I remembered the first time I noticed it. Was that only yesterday? I liked it when he smiled. The end. Thank you for joining me and Bentley. As always, we have fun. And if you heard any noises, well, that's Bentley. He's in charge of special effects. Thank you, my friends, for stopping by. I appreciate it. Peace. I love you all. Hi, Bentley. Do you want to go for a walk? Do you want to go for a walk? Have I been at the computer too long?